Okay, in this lecture we're going to create a drop down for the office ID so it's easier to select that. We're also going to create a drop down for the employment status, also making that one easier to select. We're going to put a couple of navigation buttons down here, and then we're also going to realign this to make it look a little better. Okay, so real quick first, let's just go realign those. Go into our design view, and all we have to do is double click here, go into our format, and click align left. We can do the same thing with this one, align left. And we'll go back to our form view, and there we go. We'll also want to save this so that those changes become permanent. You can just see that looks a little cleaner. We can also go in here and take up some of the space in here. Grab this box and take it a little tighter, like that, just to make it look better. Okay, so let's create some combo boxes which will allow us to use these as drop downs. So go back to design view, and what we're going to do is just come in here and delete these out and then add them back in as a combo box. Okay, so we'll highlight those. We can either hit delete or we can right click and click delete, and you see that's gone now. Now we go up here, we left click the combo box, we come down here and we drag and place it in here, and we get the combo box wizard. So you can see we have a couple of choices. The one we're going to choose is the first one. I want the combo box to get the values from another table or query. So we're going to use this combo box to retrieve the office ID values from our table. But some other options you could choose would be, I will type in the values that I want. An example of where you would use this option is if we had, say, a product list and it had t-shirts and we wanted small, medium, large, and extra large. Then you could use this option and you could actually just have them select from those four choices. So that's another great way of restricting the information that they're able to put into your form, and thereby restricting the information that's able to go into your tables and records. And then this third one allows you to find a record on your form based on the values that you select in your combo box. Okay, but we're going to go with number one. Click next. And then we want to go to our offices table to supply the values for the drop down, because we want the office numbers and also the office city so that people can clearly identify which office they're selecting without guessing at numbers. So we'll select that, click next. Okay, and then as you can see, this is similar to our form wizard where we select our fields. So we want the office ID and we want the city. Click next. And we're going to sort these by city. So it's sorted by name alphabetically. And then we can adjust the width on these if we need to. We can go in a little bit on these because they're pretty small. And then you'll notice we're hiding the key column. If we unselect that, it's going to show the office ID number as well, which we really don't need to show because the people are going to select from the city name. So we'll keep that checked. Click next. And then we can either have it remember the value or store the value in this field. So we're going to click here and we're going to do our drop down. And we want it to store this selection in the office ID field in our employee table. So they're going to select it based on the city name, but the office ID number is going to go into our employees table. So select that, click next, and then we do want to name this, and we'll just call this offices dropdown. I think once earlier in the course I named a control and I put a space in there. Not a huge deal, but generally speaking, you still want to follow those same naming practices and leave out the spaces. And then we click finish. And you can see now we have the drop down in here. And real quickly, we're going to move this, just resize things a little bit, put everything kind of lined up a little bit better with the rest. Line this side up. And let me show you our property sheet On this you can see it shows offices drop down label, and we can change the caption on here to say, we can just say office, or we could say office location. We'll just call this office. It's pretty straightforward. And now that's going to be in there. We could also just click into here and change it right here. And one other thing you can do is you can select on this and you can check your data and see your control source or where it's pulling information from. Okay, so let's go down to this one and delete this, and we'll put a new drop down for our employment status, and we'll click delete. Okay, so we go up to our combo box again, left click it and drag it and drop it. And in this case, we don't have our pre-existing employment status for full-time or part-time in another table. So doing this won't help us. So in this case, we're going to type in the values that we want. So we'll select on that. This allows us to select the number of columns we want. In this case, we're just going to do with one column, and we can reduce the size of it down. And then we're going to put PT for part-time, then tab down, and FT for full-time. Then we click next. And then we want to store this as well in a table, so we're going to select that, and we want this to go into employment status. And we'll click next, and then we'll name this. And then click finish. We can resize these. And then of course we need to go in and change this, and we'll just type in employee status. Hit enter. And then in a second I'll show you how to change the tab order, but first let's go look at our form view. So we go to form view. So here we have good old Bob Blake, our old buddy, and instead of giving us the office label here and asking us to just enter a number, making us kind of guess at it, we can just have this nice easy drop down, all alphabetized, and we can just select from that. And then we can go down to the employee status as well, and we can just select part-time or full-time from the list. Let me show you what I was talking about with the tab order. If we click into this field here and I hit tab, goes to Blake, goes to phone number, and if I hit tab again, notice it jumped all the way down to his date of birth. The reason it does that is because when we deleted the original Office ID field here, it automatically just sent the tab to the next thing in line. But you'll notice if we keep hitting tab, now it's going to jump back up to Boise, and then it'll jump back down to employee status. And that's not a very good user experience, so we're going to rearrange that a little bit and sort it out. And you'll also notice this wound up being aligned a little bit funny. And you can't always get that perfect, but we'll work on that a little bit too. So we'll go back to our design view, see if we can pull this in a little bit. And that might make it a little bit indented, but sometimes those are just a little funny. Now before we get into changing the tab order, let me show you one thing that I need to fix here. I'm going to select on this combo box, and I'm going to go over to Other. And you can see the name of this is Combo 13. Now that's not a very descriptive name. And when we go to rearrange the tab order, if this says Combo 13 and this one down here says Combo 17, that's not going to make it very easy for us to sort things out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to employee status. And then I'm going to change this one to Office ID, and then I just put the combo behind it so I know it's a combo box. Okay, so now those are named better. Okay, now I can right click, go to my tab order. First it gives us the option to select from which section we want to organize. Now we don't have anything in our header or footer that needs to be sorted by tabs. So we're really just focusing on the detail section, which is our main section of the form. And then you can see it's showing the order here. So it goes first name, last name, phone number, date of birth, office ID, and employee status. But if you look to the left here, we want it to say first name, last name, phone number, office ID. So we're going to click on office ID over here on this little box to the left. See, I got the little arrow. You left click on it to highlight it, and then you have a selector arrow that you can grab it by left clicking on it, and we'll drag it up just below phone. You can see the black line inserted there, and then when you release it, drops it up there. So now this order matches our form, so it will tab nicely. We can click OK. Now let's go back to our form view, and we can tab, 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 tab. Gets us right through there. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's go back to design view, and we'll add a couple of navigation buttons down in the bottom here, and our form will be finished. So I'm going to give myself a tiny bit more space here, and then we're going to go up to our buttons, left click on that, bring it down here and drop it where we want it. Pull this down a bit. And we talked about this a bit in the previous lecture, but we're just going to create a simple record navigation. We're going to create one button that says go to next record, and we're going to create another button under record operations that allows them to add a new record. So first let's go to the next, and we're just going to call it next. We could even make this caps. I'm going to rename this and just call it next button and finish. Okay, there's that one. Pretty straightforward. Go up to buttons again, drag and drop it. Go to record operations this time and add a new record. And we're just going to call this one new. Then we click next, call it new button, and finish. I'm just going to set these next to each other so that I can make them the same size. We'll grab this guy and plop it over here. We'll scoot them both this way a little bit to center them. And let's go to our form view and see how they work. Okay, so here we are at Bob Blake. We can do next. That's going to take us right through our different records, and then we can click new, and it's going to take us into a new record so we can start a new one from scratch. And let's just go ahead and enter one in here, and then we can go see how it looks in our employees table. So let's just put in Dan Burgess. Now we can use our fancy combo box, our date of birth selector. He was just born last year. And then we can select full-time or part-time. We'll call him full-time. And then if we click new, that's going to enter it into the records. And we'll go check our employees table. And there's Dan with all of his information. So let's go ahead and close that. One more thing that's important is that you'll notice if we click on the office drop-down, it only gives us the selections that are in our Office ID table. And if I try and type in something else like Richmond, it's going to give us an error because it's not in the Office table. So I'm forced to use one of these, which is cool. That's what we want. Okay, and one final thing I want to show you is that if you select this drop down here, this is going to give you this edit list items, and it basically is allowing the user to enter in additional things, and we don't want them to have this pop up at all. This is just going to confuse them. So we're going to cancel that, I'm going to hit escape so I can go back, so I can get rid of this. Basically, I'm escaping out of entering this new record. And I'm going to go back into design view. And in the employment status properties, we're going to go over here and go to data. And you can see down here where it says limit to list. And right now it says no, and we want to say yes. So that's the list that we've provided. And then there's this one below it. It says allow value list edits. In other words, it allows the user to change the values in that list. And we do not want that to happen either. So we're going to say no for that. Okay. Now we can go back to our form view. And when I click on this, you see it no longer gives them the options to edit this. They're now just limited to these two things. No confusion. Nice clean form. Okay. So that's how you create these combo box drop downs and how you do a kind of simple navigation to help your users navigate through your form.